So, Poetry of a Nation, Part 3. We are focusing today on youth. And I found this quotation, this in the New York Times just a couple weeks ago, March 14. It says more than 5,500 young people wrote into the Times about how the COVID-19 pandemic had affected their lives. Being a teenager in the US during the pandemic was lonely, disorienting, depressing, and suffocating, they said. As one 16-year-old said of the generation's pivotal moment, making history is way overrated. So we really want to share for the youth that there is hope. The older ones in society, not everyone is focusing on killing each other. One of the mission of Greenwood County Diversity is to share love and understanding between people of different races, different religions, different cultures. And so here we have pictures of 3 of our, what I call our local poets and singers. And you will meet them a little later on as we go through the program. So here is our program. We'll also have quotes on writing and on creativity. We're going to be premiering an original song by Robert Roundtree, who is one of the founding members of Greenwood County Diversity. He wrote this back in the 90s, and it's called Love. We're going to be having recitations of poems by poets such as Mary Oliver, Erika Meitner, and others. And then we're also going to be having some music. In pink, we have an original composition by Dalila Johnson. We have a song, which is also a poem by the Palmetto Girls Sing. We have Child of the Kingdom by Niki Daniels, that's me. And we also have some dance as well, because what you will find in these poems, one of the things that threads them together is some sort of creative act, whether it be dance, music, photography, all of those beautiful things, painting. So I hope that you will enjoy this, and we will begin with a quote. I have put here the names of all of the people who are involved in this program. We really appreciate the time that you've spent rehearsing and contributing. And I want to say you're all heroes to me. A hero is an ordinary individual who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles. And this is a quote by Christopher Reeve. So without further ado, I'm going to play this music video.
When I close my eyes, I create what
one of the reasons that poetry is so important is that our future depends on stories. As the world advances, literature has the ability to ground us in our humanness, our imaginations, and our enlightenment. So the next poet is Mary Oliver. Mary Oliver's poetry focused on quiet of occurrences of nature. And nature is something that I know many young people are close to. And the person who is going to read this poem for us loves nature as well. Mary Oliver won many awards, including the Pulitzer Prize and the National Book Award. So here is our poet, Hailey Stewart. Hailey is a junior in college. I'm going to ask her to come on camera now. She's pursuing a degree in engineering. She looks forward to using her skills to help eliminate food waste. So she's a conscientious citizen. Her hobbies include caring for her cat, yogurt, tending a garden, and knitting. And Hailey has an Etsy store. So if you want to check out and get some handmade scrunchies, go to her Etsy store is Hailey B Knitting. So we welcome Hailey to the stage. And Hailey is now going to read Wild Geese by Mary Oliver.
Hi, thank you all for coming. This is Wild Geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about your despair, yours, and I'll tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese high in the clean blue air are headed home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things.
Thank you, Hailey. If anyone would like to give a comment on this poem or ask Hailey about the poem, why she chose this poem, please feel free to do so now. Hailey has some family members here. We want to thank our dear friend Selma for sharing with us her family who are here.
I have a question for Hailey.
Sure.
Hailey, why did you select this poem?
It's a great question. I selected this poem because of its simple message of how no one is telling you to do anything else but be, just like the wild geese. And in our society that is so centered around capitalism, your time is money, and every time that you feel like you're just being, you feel like you're wasting time. So this message is really comforting to me, the way that Mary Oliver just captures the simplicity of nature and how exciting it is to just exist.
Thank you so much. We're moving on. Here is some advice to young writers who want to get ahead without any annoying delays. Don't write about man with a capital M. Write about a man. And that's a quote from E.B. White. Okay, our next poet is Erika Meitner. And there's a lot more about Erika that you can get from her website, erikameitner.com. And I want to say that this slideshow will be available to everyone who joined us today, who registered. We'll make it available as an educational tool. Erika was born and raised in Queens and Long Island, New York. She has a BA in creative writing and literature, and she got her MFA in creative writing and her MA in religious studies at the University of Virginia. She's the author of 5 books of poems already. What I found interesting is she also creates documentary projects with photo and text on urban environment. So again, this is someone who is concerned about our environment. She's done a project on Detroit, and she's currently in progress on a project on the sea level rise in Miami with a partner. Meitner is a first-generation American. Her father is from Israel. Her mother was born in a refugee camp in Germany, where her maternal grandparents settled after surviving Auschwitz, Ravensbrück, and Mauthausen concentration camps. So Erika Meitner's poem is going to be read by a friend from Lander, a new friend from Lander, Monique Sacay-Bagwell. So can she come on camera now, please?
And thank you, by the way. What an honor and pleasure to be invited here to share some poetry with all of you, some new and familiar faces. Swift trucks. This place has views of black cows, heads bent, some galloping across a field. That's from the left side. To the right, there's the runaway truck ramp on I-85, rutted and eschewing abandon. What isn't stuck somewhere, God forsaken? Only one of these statements is true, and you get to pick. He wants to have a word with us, or I can't pay for gas no more. Oh, Country View Motel. I press the shutter release and say, yes, to the sound of your captured face, to fists made of facts, to whatever doesn't pay the rent, but means well anyway. This is not the poem in which someone invented the term hypnotism, in which you say, yes, to what you see. Yes, we must get it seen to. Only one of these statements is true. Your face carries a certain strangeness that does not surface much. Or your photos, when threaded together like jewels, bear every message you were excited by when the world spoke to us. When the world spoke to you, it said, stay. It said, fragmentary. It touched your face, your beleaguered, tender, important face, and said, this, and this, and this.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Monique.
Ah, you're very welcome.
And I think Monique will be happy to talk about this poem. She wasn't the one who chose it. I chose it, but we had an interesting discussion about it. And if anyone would like to ask a question or make a comment about this reading, please unmute yourself and talk. Yes.
Explain the poem to me, Monique.
Sorry?
I'd like an explanation of the poem. I didn't get a lot of it.
Well, you know, I think the poem, it's kind of left open to the individual's interpretation. As she says, you know, one of these statements is true. So I don't think she's trying to necessarily resolve something here. It reminds me, to be honest, of a student film I saw not too long ago called And he was exploring the fact that in one room something is happening, while in another room something is happening, while in another room, you know, so this sense of fragmentary occurrences. You know, one minute we're looking out and we see cows, and look, oh, there's the trucks. Oh, look, I'm in this hotel. I think it's just moments that are captured, especially when she says, you know, a certain strangeness that does not surface much, or your photos, when threaded together like jewels, bear every message you are excited by. So sort of like photographs that we look at, you know, we can just flip through photographs and it's like brings memory after memory after memory, though nothing is particularly important at that time. At the same time, everything is important, if that makes any sense. I don't know if I made it clear or more confusing.
That helps. That helps.
It's one of those poems that I've read over and over, and I love poems like that where there's so much in it. There's a whole world in it, and you wonder about, you know, the people in there, and you get interested in them. I learned afterwards, after reading it, that she also does photography. So, you know, from the beginning when I read it, this spoke to me of photographs being taken, of snapshots, as you mentioned, the fragmentary sort of thing, and the way sometimes life comes to us in our memories as fragments of things that happened. We don't remember, you know, like seeing a whole movie. If you were to see a movie, it would be a couple of hours, you know, but you remember everything in your life, but then there's just little fragments of things that sort of stick in your head, and they're like photographs. So I really love this poem. But anyway, let us move on. Thank you so much again, Monique.
You're welcome.
Next is Rudy Francisco. He was the 2009 National Underground Poetry Slam champion. He's from San Diego, California. And he mixes social critique, introspection, honesty, and humor. And I really like the poem that he has here because it's very humorous. He uses personal narratives to discuss race, class, gender, and religion, and pinpointing and reinforcing the interconnected nature of human existence. He seeks to create work that promotes healthy dialogue, discourse, and social change. And although he's still a young person, he has made conscious efforts to cultivate other young poets and to expose the youth in schools to the genre of spoken word poetry. He's done coaching, workshops, and performances at preparatory schools and community centers.
A few things I strongly believe. I believe sour apple flavored anything is delicious. I believe orange juice tastes better with pulp. I believe Cinnabon is made by angels. I like Arizona iced tea, but 24 ounces of anything for $1 is probably poison. For real. I believe masculinity is a wet fish that most men are just trying to hold on to. And smiling before a fight is the quickest way to make your opponent nervous. I believe music is easier to digest than medicine. I believe a good song can turn any room into a church. I believe that Whitney Houston's voice is all the proof I need to know God exists. Thank you.
That was short and sweet and quite funny. Okay, next performer is Dalila Johnson. Dalila was born and raised in Jamaica. She's lived in New York since 2015. She attended Georgia Perimeter College and received a degree in the arts. She's known professionally as Safia. She's always had a passion for music and began writing and singing at a very young age. Dalila describes her musical style as varied but largely spiritual. And the song we're going to hear, In My Head, is an original song. It's about living in the present, which reminds me what our friend Hailey Stewart said. Living in the present, finding true inner peace, and putting life into perspective. So I'm going to now hope that this video will play as well. And let's hear it for Dalila.
Just relax, just relax, just
I'm going to start it again. I think I know what happened.
Just relax, just relax, just 7 billion thoughts in my head. I wish you would go away. 7 billion thoughts in my head. I wish you would. What's happening? Oh, just relax, just relax, just relax, just relax, just relax. Your problems aren't so big. Just relax, and you will always win. Just relax. Your problems are not problems. Downtown, the answer is within. Downtown, the answer is within. Downtown, the answer is within. Oh, just relax, just relax, just relax. Your problems aren't so wide.
Wow. I really enjoyed that one. Dalila, would you like to come on camera? And if anyone wants to ask Dalila a question or say anything about her song, please do.
Thanks very much, Mumsy.
Dalila is my daughter, by the way.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dalila.
Niki, can I say something? Oh,
Please, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. It reminded me of when you go to the beach and you think you're going to relax, but you force yourself to read a book, or you say, I better go pick up some shells, and you totally miss the moment. So I thought it was great.
Someone else was talking?
Can you? Janice.
Janice, go ahead.
Yeah. It reminded me of when I have something, you know, really pressing on my mind and it keeps turning over and over and over, and I'm trying to calm myself. That's what it was. Really lovely, Dalila. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's exactly what I was going through when I wrote the song. I was having all these thoughts in my head. Oh, I'm not getting life right or anything. But sometimes when you just, relax into the present moment, all your answers will come eventually.
Dalila, I wanted to ask, where did you get your inspiration from, music-wise?
Well, I've always, heard like songs in my head, like I'm an artist, it's who I am, I was born with this gift. I haven't had much training, but I have to do it because God is pushing me to do it.
Oh Lord. And it
Thank
really
you.
made me relax too. That's what I felt.
Yes.
It was such a relaxing beat, a relaxing feel, the voice very soothing. Oh man. Yeah,
Thanks
I
so
really
much.
enjoyed it. You're welcome. Thank you so much. Okay, we're gonna move on. And we have a quote here. Remember that your audience is composed of real people and that your story has something powerful in it to potentially change the way someone lives. This is a quote by Joshua Bennett, who is also a poet, and we'll be hearing from him a little later. Our next poet is Meera Dasgupta. She's the youngest United States Youth Poet Laureate appointed in the history of our country, and the first U.S. Youth Poet Laureate to have been appointed from New York or the Northeast. She's the first Asian American Youth Poet Laureate of the United States. And there's a program which appointed her, pioneered by Urban Word NYC. She was born in Queens. So again, close to Erika Meitner. We have people from New York and from South Carolina. And Meera is a fierce advocate for student voice and gender equality. She's worked throughout the city of New York on various projects to empower young women and to increase civic engagement with other students her age. So this poem is Armor, and this is a visual poem. You will see some graphics on the screen. It has been made into an animated film.
America was bred from ink and unbreakable union. With the turn of the decade, I expected the nation to remember its history at the brink, to be remade with revolution and evolution as a priority in which the people make up the majority of the solution. Instead, I found a country at a cliffhanger which hangs its citizens, close contact prohibited, people praying for their dead, a movement restabilizing the foundations of this nation built upon the condemnation of those who were born to be the concrete soot and sand grounding upturned limbs. It is no wonder that these wounds bleed black. The blood is a dead man's armor. The blood is an armor turned sword. The sword inks a body and its babies unto America and its unifying words, students, fists raised in protest, neighbors, hand in hand uplifting the rest, frontline workers, besting a virus which left us unfiltered and alone. From our homes, we stand united. Vote not as an individual, but as one of a lineage knighted by the pen, not the hand. It is during these uncertain times that we must understand the bones and lessons of those who've come before. To not ignore the horizons above crashing, turbulent shores. To not ignore the cost, for there is so much left in store, for it is only when we continue to swim, continue to rise and make ourselves known that we, as the people of this nation, can truly learn to mend and grow.
Wow, that was very powerful. So we'll move on. The next quote is, what you have achieved cannot mean more to others than it does to you. Whatever it has cost you, that's what they'll pay. Ludwig Wittgenstein, who was a philosopher. Our next poet is studying at Lander University. Her name is Skylar Alexis Brown. She's from Williston, South Carolina, and she is a junior elementary education major. She's a member of the Honors College, Teaching Fellows. She's the secretary of Active Minds, a mental health organization on campus. She's a tutor at the Greenwood County Library, and she also works on campus. In her free time, she enjoys traveling, reading, listening to music, and spending time with friends and family. And after graduation, she plans to stay in the upstate area to teach 3rd or 4th grade. So we're very, very happy to have Skylar with us today. And I hope she'll come on camera now and turn on her mic and read this poem. But first, I want to say she wrote this poem as part of a project for class. Her teacher had an exercise where you had to choose some female characters, and she chose Charlotte Fortin, who was Salem State's first African-American graduate. That's Salem, Massachusetts. She was an abolitionist, educator, writer, poet, translator, and women's rights activist. She was brought up in Philadelphia in a prominent abolitionist family. And then she traveled to Massachusetts for equal education because she could not get equal education where she was. And she graduated from what was then the Salem Normal School, now Salem State University. She, of course, faced inequality due to her race and gender throughout her life. She used her pen to express her outrage and advocate for solutions. She was a tireless advocate for the end of slavery, for equality for women and people of color, and for education for all. And then we can see why Skylar chose Charlotte, because of her love of education and teaching as well. And so you can get more information at Salem State's website there. It's on, the link is there. And so we'll now ask Skylar to read Monochromatic Black.
Good evening. This poem is called Monochromatic Black. On a bright summer day, God's glory doth shine. A baby girl on the way, the world was hers to design. A beautiful black baby grew to be strong and brave. She knew she was blessed because her hands were not forced to slave. Yet she found herself enamored with those less fortunate. She realized we are all human. She couldn't forget. So she raised her hands far to the sky, and she dedicated her life to the master. Her life was his even after she would die. Immediately she learned that being black was no monochromatic scheme. Such experiences differed from wealth to swimming against currents upstream. So with love in her heart, she started a new journey, a mission to learn about others' stories. With a quill to the page, she wrote with passion. Such fever struck her as the whip's lashing. Maybe she got tired, but she never retired. For she had met Moses, a woman so strong, who had freed her people with a smile and a song. So again, she kept writing and educating too. With conviction, she promised that a new women's ministry would ensue. And when her work was done, God called her own home. Great job, little lady. Come make yourself at home. And now in heaven, she flies with such grace as she realized she helped make the world a much, much better place.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Skylar, for writing this poem and for agreeing to come here and to share it. One more thing I wanted to say about Charlotte Fortin. She wrote diaries before the end of the Civil War that have been published in the 20th century, and they're a very significant and rare record of the life of a free Black woman in the antebellum North. So anyone who wants to do some more research and reading on Charlotte Fortin, you can look up her diaries. Skylar, I hope you will stay on camera, on mic, and if anyone has anything they want to ask about Charlotte Fortin, about your poem, please go ahead now.
Skylar, do you write poetry as something that you just do it all the time or just recently?
I'm not really a big poet. That was, my sister helped me with that poem a lot, actually. She has the gift. I write poetry occasionally, but I do have to thank my sister for helping me with this poem.
I'd like to congratulate you on how positive the poem is. It's wonderful. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And it's really good, a good way of learning about people is by, you know, having to write something about the person. I find it much more interesting than just reading, just for reading's sake, but to come up with something creative of your own, sort of relates it to your own self, you know, and makes it more understandable, I think. I feel like, Skylar, you kind of identified with Charlotte. Would you say that? With the kind of life that she lived, does she inspire you?
Yes, ma'am, especially with her being an educator and seeing all the people she helped. It just really inspired me, and hopefully it's something that I can do with my life as well.
Okay, and if you don't want to write poems, sometimes diaries are good too. You know, if you write a journal now, you never can tell by the time you get, you know, to her age when she died, you'll be ready to write your memoirs and become, you know, someone who influences others as well with their words. So thank you very much, Skylar, for that poem.
Before we continue, I just want to say I'm Skylar's sister. So if you had any questions about like what inspired it directly or how the process went, I'm also here to support my sister and to answer any questions.
Thank you. What's your name?
My name is Cadence Brown. I'm 16.
Cadence. Well, welcome, Cadence. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone want to ask Cadence a question?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I am a visitor. I am way down here in Texas. I wanted to ask, when you talked about Moses in that poem, was that referring to Harriet Tubman?
Yes.
Or who were you referring? Yes, okay, great, great. That's where all that freedom comes in, and that's where she was able to really be encouraged and challenged to help free others. And so thank you very much for that. And I agree, all of these poems and what God has given each one of you has flowed out onto the others, starting with Hailey. Hailey's and the Geese, that freedom, it all goes back to freedom, the water and all the different things in the mind, freedom, you know. So God bless each one of you. Continue the good work, great work.
Thank you. But I also think it's very important to highlight the fact that freedom isn't free. No matter if you're a geese flying in the wild or you're a Black woman advocating for your own freedom, it's never going to be free. It never has been free. And so when you have the opportunity to talk to other people about advocating for such freedom, I think it's always important to take it because it's always going to cost. It always has costed us. And we need to educate other people about that.
Thank you. Such an interesting discussion. And I just wanted to point out here that Moses is someone who freed her people with a smile and a song. She sang. So we have that theme of music here as well in this poem. Thank you. So our next quote is, "You couldn't have strength without weakness. You couldn't have light without dark. You couldn't have love without loss." And this is by Jodi Picoult, one of my favorite authors, novelists. Okay. Next, we have a tribute to Aretha Franklin. This is a very short poem by Cleo Wade, a young person who is one of many millions, I'm sure, who have been inspired by the voice and the life of Aretha Franklin. So I'm going to just very quickly read it for you. You can also read it on the screen for yourself. She sang my soul back together more times than I can count. I hope somewhere, somehow, she knows that. And Cleo says she barely has a single memory from her childhood that doesn't have the music of Aretha Franklin playing in her house. Her Live at Fillmore West album was her companion through every heartbreak, rejection, and growing pain she ever experienced. So Cleo says we rarely get a chance to thank our heroes in person, but when we pass on their stories, their talents, and their gifts to the next generations, we are able to honor their spirit and contributions to the human experience. I plan on doing that. It is the least I can do after all her music has done for me. Rest in power, Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul. I'm sure that many of us here have fond memories of Aretha's music. And also this gentleman who wrote a very important song, James Weldon Johnson. He was a successful Broadway lyricist, a poet, a novelist, a diplomat, and a key figure in the NAACP. In 1900, he collaborated with his brother to produce Lift Every Voice and Sing, a song that later acquired the subtitle of the Negro National Anthem. President Teddy Roosevelt appointed Johnson as consul to Venezuela and Nicaragua, where he served with great distinction. He's known for the Book of American Negro Poetry and also African American Religion, God's Trombones, and Black Manhattan, which was the first history of African Americans in New York City. As chief operating officer of the NAACP during that same decade, he helped formulate the strategy that would later overturn American segregation laws. And this portrait is in the National Portrait Gallery, Smithsonian Institution. And the background of this portrait recalls the poem Creation, one of Johnson's best known poems from God's Trombones. So our next poem is called The Gift to Sing by James Weldon Johnson, and that is going to be read by Robert Figueira. He's also from Lander, a new friend who is joining us to share his voice with us. He sings very well, so we have to find a chance in the future to hear him actually sing, but today he's going to read this poem for us.
Thank you. The Gift to Sing. Sometimes the mist overhangs my path, and blackening clouds about me cling. But oh, I have a magic way to turn the gloom to cheerful day. I softly sing. And if the way grows darker still, shadowed by sorrow's somber wing, with glad defiance in my throat, I pierce the darkness with a note and sing and sing. I brood not over the broken past, nor dread whatever time may bring. No nights are dark, no days are long, while in my heart there swells a song, and I can sing.
Wow, that really stirred my spirit, my heart. Thank you so much, Robert. And because time is getting on, we had some delays. I'm going to move along, but I'm hoping that Robert will stay a little after the formal program so that people can talk to him. Thank you. And now we have another quote. It says, keep your whole being on the thing you are turning into words. The minute you flinch and take your mind off this thing and begin to look at the words and worry about them, then your worry goes into them and they set about killing each other. Ted Hughes, another famous poet. These are the words of the next poem that we're going to hear. It's called My Life is a Canvas, and it was put to music and sung by Palmetto Girls Sing. So I just wanted to share the lyrics of it so you can have a look at it. And then we'll move on to the actual video, which they recorded on Monday at their rehearsal in the church. So we want to thank Palmetto Girls Sing and Amy Fennell, their director, for contributing to our program today. This poem actually was written by a 9-year-old. Palmetto Girls Sing is a girls' choir. It serves girls in grades 4 to 8 in Greenwood, South Carolina and surrounding areas. It seeks to enrich the lives of girls through diverse and high-quality choral music. An emphasis is placed on the joy of singing and its importance in our world. Palmetto Girls Sing offers girls opportunities for personal, social, spiritual, and artistic growth. The girls learn vocal technique, vocal health, music reading, and performance skills. And Palmetto Girls Sing presents its music, both sacred and secular, to the glory of God. It's an outreach of First Presbyterian Church, and Palmetto Girls Sing is a nonprofit organization. And among the artists who contributed is Matthew Miller, accompanist, Rhonda McGinnis on flute, Amy Fennell, who you see there with her back turned, she's the director, and Nikki Murphy, her rehearsal assistant. So let us play this video.
Sometimes bright and colorful.
Oh, that was so sweet. I was only sorry I couldn't see the flute player. So we're going to move on to Joshua Bennett. Joshua is a Mellon Assistant Professor of English and Creative Writing at Dartmouth College. He's written 3 books of poetry and literary criticism. His first book was a National Poetry Series selection and a finalist for an NAACP Image Award. Bennett has performed and taught creative writing workshops at hundreds of middle schools, high schools, colleges, and universities across the US, as well as in the UK and South Africa. And currently, he is in New York City. He's a 2020-2021 visiting scholar at Friends Seminary in New York City. This is a wonderful poem. The first time I heard it, I was blown away, and the way he performed it. Tamara's Opus at the White House Evening of Poetry, Music, and the Spoken Word on May 12, 2009.
Tamara has never listened to hip hop, never danced to the rhythm of raindrops or fallen asleep to a chorus of chirping crickets. She has been deaf for as long as I've been alive. And ever since the day I first turned 5, my father has said, Joshua, nothing is wrong with Tamara. God just makes some people different. And at that moment, those 9 letters felt like hammers, swung gracefully by unholy hands to shatter my stained glass innocence into shards that can never be pieced back together or do anything more than sever the ties between my sister and I. I waited, was patient numberless years, anticipating the second her ears would open like lotuses and allow my sunlight senses to seep into her insides, make her remember all of those conversations we must have had in heaven back when God handpicked us to be sibling souls centuries ago. I still remember her 20th birthday. Readily recall my awestruck 11-year-old eyes as I watch deaf men and women of all ages dance in unison to the vibrations of speakers booming so loud that I imagine angels chastising us for disturbing their worship with such beautiful blasphemy. Until you have seen a deaf girl dance, you know nothing of passion. There was a barricade between us that I never took the time to destroy. Never for even a moment thought to pick up a book and look up the sign for sister, for family, for goodbye. I will see you again someday. Remember the face of your little brother. It is only now I see that I was never willing to put in the extra effort to love her properly. So as the only person in my family who is not fluent in sign language, I've decided to take this time to apologize. Tamara, I am sorry for my silence, but true love knows no frequency. And so I will use these hands to speak volumes that can never be contained within the boundaries of sound waves. I will shout at the top of my fingertips until digits dance and relay these mental messages directly to your soul. I know that there is no poem that can make up for all the time we have lost. So please, if you can, just listen. Thank you.
Another quote from Jodi Picoult. You can always edit a bad page. You can't edit a blank page. And I hope this will be inspiration for other young people who want to write, want to express themselves. Just start, just do it. Okay, this is Niki Daniels' time. That's me. I have a chapbook, Weights and Measures, which was published in 2005. My poetry has been published in various newspapers and anthologies in Jamaica, and I was also part of an Anna Bloomer project in Hanover, Germany. That was in 2000. I also write songs, but I'm usually too shy to sing them in public. So this song was composed in around 2005. I was on my way to work at the University of Technology. The sun was rising over the Blue Mountain Range, and I was inspired to create this. This is another video. I just wanted to say a little bit about the guitarist who's accompanying me in this video. Seretse Small is a product of the Jamaica School of Music and the Berkeley Jazz College. He has over 30 years experience as a professional musician, and he has worked to improve the experience of music. He is a concert promoter, artist manager, he's an educator. He believes that great music improves the quality of life of any nation, and that is so true. He's the founder of Avant Academy of Music. It provides one-on-one instruction and customized music lessons for beginners to professionals. So I am going to now mute myself and share this song.
Slowly the sun climbs over the mountain. Warmly the sun shines over the sea. I can't get used to feelings you taught me to feel, though it's real as the sun on my face. Blow like the wind blows down through the valley. Surely the wind knows where it should be. I'm lost and all alone, feeling just like a phone ringing and ringing with no one to hear. Is anybody home? Can you hear me? My heart lost its way. Is anybody home? Maybe, maybe the wind knows the way. The wind knows the way. Why do the poor ones wilt by the wayside? Why do the rich ones trample the flower? I don't believe that we've lost love completely. Somebody knows there's a reason to try. Pray me a kingdom where there's no fighting, a world that's one country, one nation all. Faith is a tiny seed that grows to a mighty tree. Believe in the kingdom, it's coming at last. Is anybody home? Can you hear me? My heart lost its way. Is anybody home? Maybe, maybe the wind knows the way. The wind knows the way to change me to pure Holy Spirit, to move me, to open my arms, to use me, to shape and to mold me, love me and hold me and know who I am, a child of the kingdom.
People always say that when you love someone, nothing in the world matters. But that's not true, is it? You know, and I know, that when you love someone, everything in the world matters a little bit more. And this is another quote from one of my favorite authors, Jodi Picoult. You can find lots of her books in the library, in the Greenwood County Library. Moving on to Tracy K. Smith. Tracy is another one of our poet laureates. From 1997 to 1999, she held a fellowship at Stanford University. She's the author of 4 award-winning books of poetry, and in 2014, she was awarded the Academy of American Poets Fellowship. She's also written a memoir, Ordinary Light, which was a finalist for the National Book Award in Nonfiction. And in June 2017, just a few years ago, she was named U.S. Poet Laureate. Tracy now teaches creative writing at Princeton. She hosts American Public Media's daily radio program and podcast, The Slow Down, sponsored by the Poetry Foundation. And Tracy is going to be reading her own poem. This is a poem that I was very attracted to. It's called Duende. And I'll explain a little bit about what Duende is. Here you can see on the screen, it literally means elf or magic. But it's not just an elf and it's not just magic. In 1933, the Spanish poet and theater director Federico Garcia Lorca addressed the Duende, that fiery spirit that makes great performance stir the emotions. He said the Duende is a power, not a work, a struggle, not a thought. He says, I have heard an old maestro of the guitar say, the Duende is not in the throat. The Duende climbs up inside you from the soles of the feet. Meaning this, it is not a question of ability, but of true living style, of blood, of the most ancient culture, of spontaneous creation. So we're going to read or watch, this video of Tracy Smith, the 22nd Poet Laureate of the United States, performing Duende.
This poem is called Duende. The earth is dry, and they live wanting, each with a small reservoir of furious music, heavy in the throat. They drag it out, and with nails in their feet, coax the night into being, brief believing, a skirt shimmering with sequins and lies. And in this night that is not night, each word is a wish, each phrase a shape their bodies ache to fill. I'm going to braid my hair, braid many colors into my hair. I'll put a long braid in my hair and write your name there. They defy gravity to feel tugged back, the clatter, the mad slap of landing. And not just them, not just the ramshackle family, the tíos, primitos, not just the bailaor whose heels have notched and hammered time so the hours flow in place like a tin river, marking only what once was. Not just the voices scraping against the river, nor the hands nudging them farther, fingers like blind birds, palms empty, echoing. Not just the women with sober faces and flowers in their hair, the ones who dance as though they're burying memory one last time beneath them. And I hate to do it here, to set myself heavily beside them. Not now that they've proven the body a myth, parable not even for what not even language moves quickly enough to name. If I call it pain and try to touch it with my hands, my own life, it lies still and the music thins, a pulse felt for through garments. If I lean into the desire it starts from, if I lean unbuttoned into the blow of loss after loss, love tossed into the ecstatic void. It carries me with it farther, to chords that stretch and bend like light through colored glass. But it races on toward shadows where the world I know and the world I fear threaten to meet. There is always a road, the sea, dark hair, dolor, always a question bigger than itself. They say you're leaving Monday. Why can't you leave on Tuesday?
It's difficult to get the news from poems, yet men die miserably every day for lack of what is found there. William Carlos Williams. We have a special treat to end this program. This is some dancing, and I really enjoyed this. I think a lot of what the previous poem was about, you know, the Spanish, Latin American dancing. We will see in this video a woman with a long hair, with a braid in her hair. And it's just really beautiful. And she talks in the poem about the slap of the feet and so on. So I thought this was a good way to end it. And I know that many young people like dancing. So I'm going to play just a bit of this, not all of it, because it's a longer piece. I'm going to start at about here. Just briefly, there are these soñajas, I think it's pronounced, originally created by Amalia Hernandez. These are jingles or songs inspired by the joyous and excited movements of children playing. And yes, these traditional dances are performed as a part of celebrations that they have every 2nd of February during a festival in Mexico. So I think that is the end of our formal program, and I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'm going to turn off the recording,